Hey guys,
Hey,
this
buddy.
is Tcarp and Tman. It has been a while since you and I have gotten into. Really want to introduce a new series today. We're going to talk about Ötzi the Iceman, and you and I both like historical things, and we'll sit here and talk about an hour on a subject, and we don't even turn the camera on. So I was like, let's just go ahead and turn the camera on and talk about it. We're going to start a 3-part series on Ötzi the Iceman. And what we're going to do is talk about who Otzi is and what he carried and the significance. Then the second part we want to do is we'll talk about like the modern day gear. And then we want to get into the third part, which I really think you need to subscribe to the channel and figure out what we want to talk about third part wise, because that's in my opinion the most important part.
I do too. I think so too.
But you got to stick around to find out what that is. So let's go ahead though and get into Otzi and what's going on with that. And by the way, before we get to that, how you been? You doing all right?
I've been doing good, brother. I've been missing you. We've been doing life. I know you had a lot of things going on in your life, and so have I. And it's made it very difficult for us to get together and do. Because we talk about sports, we talk about the worldly things, we talk about things that we how to be prepared if you're caught off guard. We talk about the Lord. I mean, we have a lot of different interests that we talk about.
And that's why you guys need to subscribe. And we need to get some more subscribers, and we'll get in here and we need to get some comments, because we try to interact and we try to do all that with you guys.
Right.
So let's talk real quick about Otzi. So, Ötzi the Iceman. Who is Ötzi the Iceman, Steve?
You know, I really got intrigued with him, but it reminded me of Pope and Young's The Last Indian issue.
Okay.
And how he taught them how to use a bow, which has been my love. I mean, that's all I've done all my life is hunting with a bow and used a bow in that direction. But when I run across Ötzi the Iceman,
mm-hmm.
I was intrigued, and first of all, he took them back in his date of how old he was beyond our thoughts.
Our thought.
And the science thought.
The way they think it now, they've dated him, which it's a guess. We don't know. He apparently lived between 3350 and 3105 BC. And Otzi's remains were discovered on September 19th, so coming up, 1991, in the Otzian Alps of Austria, the Austrian-Italy border. He's Europe's oldest known natural human mummy, and so basically they were up finding him, and they found this feller, and he was completely frozen in ice.
Right.
So they were hiking the Austrian Alps, and they thought he was a hiker,
right.
And we'll roll in some clips of what what Otzi looks like. So they found him and like, oh no, this is a hiker. This is a modern day hiker.
Right.
He's died.
Exactly.
Turns out that's not the case. So they found him. They actually found a preserved kit of items and all that, and it's a great look at what men of his day had and carried and all that. So I kind of want to get into what he had and what he carried real quick.
Well, what he carried would be what you and I would carry if something happened. I mean, I look at the situation. I'll give you a time capsule here that we'll probably do something with after a while. But, being in the woods and outdoors all my life, you run in a situation that you can't get home.
Yeah.
And we run in a situation here. Have you ever thought about, the area in which we live? I think about 9/11. I think about the unknown there, of what took place there. I think back when 2000, as I was talking about,
mm-hmm.
When things happen, a storm outage, all those things, what you plan, and if you can't make an effort to get back home, what you're playing.
Right, and that's the significance of what Otzi had. Is
exactly.
This is what works. This is what worked. Golly, 5,000, 6,000 years ago,
Right.
and what he had and what worked then, and will it work today? Stay tuned for part 2 of that, and what we would carry and all that. So you're kind of getting into part 2 already. So let's take a look at what Otzi carried and the significance of it. Looks like Otzi was a master of his environment, the alpine environment. Looks like he was an adept hunter because he had bows and arrows and stuff like that. He carried that. He was very familiar with the qualities of raw materials because they didn't have production like we have. Like, you know, I've got this garage full of tools and boats and all that. They didn't have that production.
Right.
They had to make things out of raw materials. The one thing that Otzi didn't carry with him didn't carry pottery. This would have been an important archaeological clue, but didn't carry that. So let's talk about some things that he carried. Let me get into his inventory of it.
One thing, he had a fire making kit.
Yeah, so the Iceman survival kit. So he carried this is just the survival kit, not everything he carried, but his little kit. He had medical fungus with him. So he had a way to, you know, if he got sick or he had some antibiotic stuff, which I find that fascinating, that they would, you know, they knew what plants had different properties like that. That's interesting to me. So next one, he had an arrow. He had some arrows and notches and all that, like you said.
He not only did he carry his bow, he had his arrows that was complete, but he had shafts, raw shafts, and the material to make arrows as he needed to. And if he, you know, like we would carry something to hone our knife or an axe, a file, or he carried something to retouch up the or remake.
Right, because he didn't have metal tool. He didn't have metal tools like this. He didn't have that. He had stone tools.
Right.
He had flint and steel, and he had a retoucher to retouch up that and rework that edge and all that. That's using your noggin.
Well, it's thinking down the road.
Yes.
And a lot of times we don't think down the road. What if? What's plan A? What's plan B? It looked like he had all those things out.
Right. He had a belt pouch or a way to carry all that stuff. He didn't.
Like a haversack, I think.
Yeah, haversack, or he had flint tools, which you talked about. He had an awl, had a way to drill through things, which is very interesting.
Exactly.
A lot of people don't even think about an awl or anything like that.
Well, you know, just like we did this here a while back, but the little knife I carry is a little Boy Scout knife.
Yeah.
Well, say you need to punch a hole.
Punch a hole through thing. There it is.
I mean, you know, it's just natural. What you have in your pocket, you carry. That P38 that we used to open a can, it's on my keys. Those things that you've got in your pocket, just naturally, things that you can use.
Absolutely. He had that, he had that retoucher, so to do that.
Sharpie.
It says he also had a needle.
He did.
So that's to make garments or who?
Well, some say that he had a cut.
Ah, you've got to stitch yourself up.
Yeah, say that he had to
And then of course he had the arrowheads and all that. So that was part of his survival kit. Let's see here. Also, one of the biggest things he had pouches, like he had like the baskets. He worked and weaved baskets, and had a backpack. You were looking that up. Tell me about that.
Well, his backpack, he had a back frame.
Okay.
Kind of like what we would have on the wooden ones.
Like the Roy Craft pack frames,
yeah.
Right?
And he had one that's designed, which I thought was really unique. How he designed it. Then he had his pack and his sleeping and all that stuff on that pack.
That's incredible.
You know, he had because he would, you know, be ready to stay where he's at. And all this that he carried with him, the axe he had, you would think back in that period of time in which I wish was at the house, because I've got some stuff, Indian artifacts wise, that we could use to show. But you would think more in a stone type, but it was a copper axe.
So
it was modern.
That's a big deal because they didn't believe that copper had even been discovered at that point.
No.
So tell me about this axe. Tell me what your thoughts on this are.
It had been forged. It had been forged. In fact, I've seen where people had tried to recreate it, but it was kind of like a, you know, you use a wedge to drive into a log, split it, you know, a wedge.
Yes.
Well, that was wedged like a stone, and it was tied in place, like kind of you would tie in a wooden.
Right, a wooden wedge. It was, you know, kind of kept in there.
Not a wooden, but a stone
axe.
Right,
stone axe, right. But it was, instead of that stone being there, it had that really beautiful, beautiful copper, which I'm wearing a copper bracelet, it's copper.
And it was really, he had to be, known. It wasn't something just everybody would have the ability to do.
Right, exactly.
And that might be one of the things that goes into the of what happened to him.
So real quick, tell me about it.
Well,
tell me about how he died.
It's a mystery.
It's a 5,000-year-old mystery.
It sure is. And they found that he was, they thought he just fell, had a concussion head-wise. And because the way they found him, he was kind of laid this way, on this rock and stuff. And he was laying in a direction that everything in here moved forward, so he was kind of downhill. So when they brought him out and they looked at him and everything, they did not know it, but they went back and did a scan. And they seen in this scan, and it took them a while, a broadhead was come in from his armpit and was lodged in here, and the broadhead was there, but the shaft was not. So the broadhead was there, all the wooden shafts and everything there. If somebody had shot him
and ripped it out,
somebody had shot him and they went up and removed the shaft,
the
broadhead stayed placed.
Well, it's almost like they would have been known by how they make their own shafts.
Exactly. Or if they had taken, why didn't they not take this prized possession and carry it?
Of the axe. Because it could have been one of those things to where, hey, that's Otzi's. That ain't.
Exactly. So they is a real mystery out there, and I'm hoping that we get enough people that's interested that they would say this is what I found, and we'd have enough literature, because everybody loves a mystery.
Everybody, it's a 5,000-year-old mystery.
It sure is.
But I think it's so cool how we can go back and see what he carried and whatnot. And guys, stay tuned for part 2, because what we're going to do, we're going to get our kits out, see how they match up with Otzi's, and go from there. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for part 2 for Turkey Man. This is Tcarp. Y'all be good.